All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're heading to Guanajuato, Mexico, to talk about one of the most famous alleys on the planet. I bet you've seen pictures of it, right? But here's the thing. The story you think you know about it, yeah, it's pretty much all wrong.
Yeah, you've probably heard the legend, right? You've got Anna and Carlos, these two star-crossed lovers from feuding families. And their houses are so close that they could actually lean out and kiss across their balconies, all behind her mean old dad's back. I mean, it's a great story, super romantic. But does a love story really explain, the actual architecture? Just think about it for a second. Why on earth would anyone build two massive houses just 68 centimeters apart? It doesn't really add up. And the real reason? It has absolutely nothing to do with romance. Nope. The real story is so much better. It's all about silver, crazy geology, and just raw economics. And it all starts with how this entire city basically told the Spanish Empire, thanks, but no thanks, we're doing things our way. Okay, so part one, the grid that never was. To really get why Guanajuato is so unique, we gotta first look at how these colonial cities were supposed to look. And then we'll see how this place just threw the rulebook out the window. So check this out. Back in 1573, Spain had this law, right? It said all new towns had to be built in a perfect, neat grid, super orderly. But Guanajuato? It just completely ignored that. And the reason why is simple. It wasn't designed by city planners. It literally just exploded out of the ground from a bunch of chaotic mining camps, all chasing silver veins, twisting through the mountains. And that right there is the key. You see, most cities are planned first, then built. Guanajuato was the total opposite. It was built first, and then way later, someone came along and tried to impose some order on it. But by then, it was too late. The chaos, that organic shape, was literally set in stone. All right. Section 2, silver, slopes, and squeezing. So if there was no grid, what was shaping this place? What created these impossibly narrow streets? Well, it boils down to three things: a whole lot of silver, some very steep slopes, and the economic squeeze that mashed them all together. Okay, let's start with the money because we are talking about a staggering amount of wealth. Get this. At its peak in the 1700s, just one mine here, La Valenciana, was cranking out 2/3 of the entire world's silver supply. 2/3! That created this absolutely insane, well, not a gold rush, a silver rush. But here's the catch. All that silver was buried in this super steep, tight canyon. So suddenly there's this crazy competition for any little patch of land you could actually build on. It drove construction costs through the roof. We're talking over 50% more expensive than building on flat ground. Every single square meter became incredibly valuable. So what do you do when land is that expensive? Well, you don't waste a single inch. Property owners build right up to the absolute edge of their land to squeeze every drop of value out of their investment. That 68-centimeter gap? It's not there for a romantic kiss. It's just the leftover space between two property owners trying to make as much money as possible. And that just perfectly sums up the real story, doesn't it? The city's crazy, squished shape wasn't a design flaw. It wasn't some artsy choice. It was a totally logical, practical response to this perfect storm of massive wealth and really difficult terrain. Which brings us to our next section: accidental architectural genius. Because all of this chaos, it turns out, wasn't a bug. It was a feature. It was actually an incredible display of adaptive design that these builders were basically inventing as they went. And this chart really just lays it all out. A standard colonial street was supposed to be 8 to 12 meters wide. Here, you've got streets that are barely 2 meters. The rules said you had to have a setback from your property line. Here, nope. A 0 setback was totally normal. They broke every single rule in the book. So to deal with this, the builders came up with these brilliant solutions. They started terracing buildings up the hills. You could have a house that's only 2 stories high from the front, but 5 stories high from the back. Shared walls became standard practice to save space and money. And these ideas were so good, so practical, that they ended up becoming the blueprint for other mining towns all over central Mexico. Okay, final section, how to see Guanajuato. So what's the takeaway here? What does this all mean if you're actually visiting the city today? Well, knowing the real story, the one about money and mountains, it completely changes how you should look at the place.
Yeah, to really get Guanajuato, you want to avoid a couple of common mistakes.
First, just forget the whole romantic myth. It's a nice story, but it's not the real one. Second, don't spend all your time trying to get a picture in that one little alley. And third, try not to look at it with 21st century eyes. Remember, 250 years ago, this was a totally innovative way to build a city.
So here's the real takeaway. Don't just go to the Alley of the Kiss to snap a photo of that little gap. Instead, stop and look up. Look all around you. See how the houses are literally stacked on top of one another? See the foundations built right into the bare rock? That's it. That's where you'll find the real story of this place.
And it really makes you think, doesn't it, how many other famous romantic spots around the world are actually hiding a much more interesting story. A story that's not about legends at all, but about money, tough problems, and the incredible human ingenuity that solves them.